So we are going to start with this topic, consumer research. The objectives of teaching this particular unit would include that after discussing this particular topic, you will be able to understand the complete concept of consumer research. You will be able to know the evolution of consumer research. You'll be able to understand the basic steps that are there in consumer research process, and you'll be able to explain the methods of qualitative and quantitative research. So let's start with the introduction to consumer research. Consumer research is the methodology used to study consumer behavior. It is developed as an extension to marketing research, exclusively focusing on consumer behavior, because the marketing research is a kind of research that focuses on a number of things. But consumer research is one extension of marketing research that particularly focuses on the studying of consumer behavior. Initially, it was intended to enable marketers to predict how consumers would react to promotional messages and to understand why they made the purchase decision they did. So, in during the initial days when this particular concept was developed, the purpose of it was just to predict how the consumers would react to any promotional messages that was designed, and and to understand why they made the purchase decision they did, because marketers were reasonably convinced that if they could know everything about the consumer decision process, they would be in a position to design marketing strategies and promotional campaigns that would influence the consumers in such a manner that they would buy the company's product or research services. So now it is used to identify both felt and latent needs, and to learn how consumers perceive products, brands, and stores, what their attitudes are before and after promotional campaigns, and how and why they make their purchase decisions. So the area of consumer research is widened now. Means you can make out from these two statements that initially means this consumer research was used just to know, just to better design the promotional messages by the company. And the purpose was just to understand how would they react to the promotional messages, and by having the knowledge, by knowing how would they react to the companies, the marketers were in a better position to design the uh, uh, promotional programs. But later on, the scope of consumer research had widened to include understanding both the current needs as well as the future needs. Means those needs that they feel that the consumers need, and also to understand those needs which consumer doesn't even understand. And the objective is also to learn how consumers perceive the product, means how they form their perceptions regarding the various products, the various brands, and as well as for the stores. Because sometimes what happens, we being consumers, we prefer to buy from a particular retail store, and not from means every retail store that is there. So why we patronize a particular retail outlet? So the reasons for that could be found with the help of consumer research, and what are their attitudes and before and after promotional campaigns. So this is basically to know the effectiveness of promotional campaigns that were made by the company, to understand if the attitude of the consumers have changed after the promotional campaign was run over the various channels, and how and why they make their purchase decision. Of course, the underlying purpose is to understand how people and why they make the purchase decision they had made. Next is the evolution of the consumer research. So, means there are three stages of the evolution of consumer research, from the positivism to modernism and to the postmodernism. So, the early consumer researchers gave little thought to the impact of mood, emotion, or situation on consumer decisions. So, they basically believed that marketing was applied economics. Applied economics means the one that thinks that the consumers were rational decision makers who actively evaluate the goods and services available to them, and they select those that give highest utility at the lowest cost. So being an economic person, what we do is we just look for those things that offers us highest utility. So during this era, during the initial era of the consumer research, it was just thought that people are the rational consumers. Consumers are very rational. They think logically and they purchase only those things that offer them value. But this was not the case every time. So means it was observed that people do buy only, even those things that are not needed by them. So that led to the evolution of the next phase, that is called the motivational research. But we'll first complete this. According to A.L. Firat and Aladi Venkatesh, most studies on consumer behavior are based on a set of beliefs and assumptions, and which is called positivism. So the basic, because this is the start of the consumer research, so most of the assumptions that are being taken care of are a set of assumptions which is called positivism, or this is also called as modernism. And those researchers who support these assumptions of modernism are called positivist. Positivist research basically utilizes research methods borrowed primarily from the natural sciences. As I've told you that it was based on the fundamentals of the applied economics, where the consumers were viewed as a rational person, or logical, the rational person who thinks logically. Next is the era of next phase is the motivational research. In 1939, a Viennese psychoanalyst named Ernest Ditcher began to use Freudian psychoanalyst techniques to uncover the hidden motivation of consumers, which is commonly known as motivational research. And later on, it was began to be adopted widely by marketers and the ad agency. So this type of this motivational research makes use of both qualitative as well as the quantitative research. So the initial means um, this methodology, the methodology of motivational research consists of making use of projective techniques and depth interviews. And research requires this motivational conducting motivational research requires highly trained interviewers and analysts, because this type of analysis is analysis related to understanding the psychology of customers, which is a very complex process. So we need highly trained interviewers as well as the analyst. This type of research is generally used to obtain new ideas for promotional campaigns. So in this case, means because here we need highly trained interviews who generally interviews the consumer on one-to-one basis to understand the hidden their hidden purposes, their hidden desires. So the sample size is very small, and this sample size, the results obtained from this sample size cannot be generalized to the larger populations. And because the findings are generally based on the interpretation of the single interviewer who was taking interview, so these are often highly subjective, and these are not free from the bias. So, a number of researchers in consumer behavior have given the importance to the act of consumption rather than to the act of buying. So the interest in consumer experience has led to the term experientialism. Okay, so actually connection was lost in between. So so interest in consumer experience has led to the term that is called experientialism. The researcher involved in this type of research are referred to as experientialist, postmodernist, or interpretivist. So, experientialists tend to view knowledge as being time, cultured, and context dependent, and consumption is viewed as a symbolic system. So, here the postmodernism they believe that means the knowledge, the consumer knowledge is based on the time they spend in searching for the products and their culture, and means it is dependent upon the context related to the culture as well as the subculture. Ethnography, semiotics, and depth interviews are the methodologies being used. So, ethnography is basically a technique in which the researchers get located in the society under study in an attempt to grasp meaning of various cultural practices. So, this is a study of the society, person living in the society. Semiotics is the study of symbols and the meanings they convey, and the researcher uses this to discover the meanings of various consumption behaviors and rituals. So you could make out that means many a times like even the product names are such like 555. Okay, so this number is being used. So this is based on the semiotics that what are the symbols, why they are so important to a particular culture or subculture, and that's why they are being used. Depth interviews are the means interviews conducted on one-to-one basis in a great depth. So a long time interview of a particular person is called depth interviews. Now we come to the next thing that is called consumer research process. So it is a 6-step process wherein we start with specifying the research objectives, then comes collecting secondary data, then designing primary research, collecting primary data, and then analyzing data, and last one is the report preparation. So this is how we go about. So first of all, objectives are being developed. Then we collect the secondary data. Now, to collect the primary data, the approaches will be altogether different if we are going for the qualitative research or we are going for the quantitative research. Now, this will be based on the objective we have. If the objective are such for which qualitative data is required, then we'll design a qualitative research. And if if the objectives are such for which we need quantitative data, then we can go for designing the quantitative research. So in each of these category, even if we are going for qualitative research or quantitative research, what are the methods we'll be using? Then what is the sample design? What is the data collection instrument? And in case of qualitative research, we'll decide on the method. Then we can screen a questionnaire and or we can develop a discussion guide. So once these things are finalized, then the research is being conducted. So in case of qualitative research, the research is being conducted by a highly trained researcher, and in case of the quantitative research, primary data is collected generally by the field staff. And after collecting the data, then that data is being analyzed and a report is prepared. And that report is again used for the purpose at hand. So the very first step is the specifying research objective. So the very first step in consumer research process is to start by specifying the research objectives, which is very important. So it is important to clearly specify the purpose and objectives of the research study. This will ensure the development of appropriate research design. So that means by just reading these two lines, you are able to understand that if we don't specify the research objectives, we won't be able to design the research in a good manner. For example, if purpose is to come up with new ideas for advertising campaign, then a qualitative study may be fruitful, because qualitative studies will be used only when we are going to find out the hidden underlying purposes of the consumers. So there we can make use of the qualitative research only, and quantitative research basically deals with the numerical figures. On the other hand, if purpose is to learn what percentage of people use certain products and how frequently they use them, then the quantitative study is appropriate. Okay, now it must be clear to you that here we are talking about the numbers. So, what percentage of people use certain product? That means the number of users who uses a particular product. So, this is something in numbers. That's why this is called quantitative data. Similarly, next is the frequency of use by them. Again, this is something that will be in numerical type. So, this is here we need the quantitative data. So now this is a research question. Okay, you just need to think over and respond. Assume you are planning to open a new pizza restaurant near your campus. Okay, and you all are required to think of the three objectives of a research plan for your new business, and how could you gather these data. So assume that you are going to open a new pizza restaurant outside your campus. So you just want to conduct a research that will this venture will be successful or not. So two things you need to think of. First of all, three objectives for your research plan, and how will you go about gathering this data. So means on the type of objectives you have set in, the research design would be dependent. Now then, after specifying the research objectives, the second step would be to collect and evaluate secondary data. Secondary data is a data which is not collected for the problem at hand. So this is the data that is already being collected by someone else, and you could make use of that data. So secondary, this is an act of locating secondary data, means the act of locating secondary data. Secondary data I told you is the data which is not collected for the problem at hand. So this is the data that is already available somewhere, that is called secondary research. So time to time, the various industry for various industries, government publishes reports. Those reports we can make use of for understanding our industry better. So that is the use of secondary data. Sometimes secondary research uncovers enough useful data related to the present problem that it eliminates the need to conduct primary research. Sometimes means the secondary research, the secondary data can solve our purpose, and we may not um, be required to use the primary research thereafter. In most cases, secondary research offers clues and direction for the design of primary research. But in most of instances, secondary research alone will not be very useful. So we need to design the primary research as well. But the use of secondary research basically provides guidance for the design of the primary research. So there are many pros and cons of the secondary data. First thing is that the major advantage is that it is the cost effective method, because data is collected by someone else, and by paying a price we can make use of the data. So there are many research and consultancy agencies which keep on conducting surveys, and they prepare they publish the reports afterwards, and those reports are very useful for some industries, and they can make so like McKinsey is also a consultancy firm. Their AC Nielsen is also marketing research agencies. So these agencies keep on conducting surveys, which are used, the reports of which are used by many firms. But there are some disadvantages as well, because the data, secondary data may not be relatable. It may not be related to the problem at hand, because this was collected for some other purposes. So the purpose of collecting the secondary data may altogether be different from the objectives we have right now for our problem at hand, and it might not be very useful. So if means um, after evaluating the secondary data, we may feel that we also need some other data which need to be collected through the primary data. Primary data is such data that is collected for the very first time for the प्रॉब्लम अंडर स्टडी. जो भी प्रॉब्लम हम स्टडी करने जा रहे हैं उसके लिए जो भी डाटा कलेक्ट किया जाता है, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज द प्राइमरी डाटा. Since the approach to research design for qualitative and quantitative research differs in terms of data collection, sample design and use of data collection instruments, both research approaches are discussed on comment slides. Now, as I've shown you in the figure also, in the diagram of consumer research process also, that primary research could be either qualitative research or the quantitative research based on the objectives. And the methods used for data collection in qualitative research are different, and methods used for data collection in quantitative research are different. Now, on the coming slides, we will be discussing what is quantitative research, what is qualitative research, what are their methods, what are the data instruments being used. So, first is the qualitative research design. So qualitative research design, and in the qualitative research design, the researcher first takes into consideration the purpose of the research study and the kind of data needed. So for designing qualitative research designer, the researcher has to consider the purpose of the research study as well as the type of data that needs to be collected. Data collection techniques for qualitative studies include focus group interviews, depth interviews, as well as the projective techniques. The emphasis here is on open-ended and free response types of questions so that the respondents reveal their unconscious thoughts and beliefs. So in qualitative research design, whichever method is used, the emphasis would be on to uncover the hidden thought or belief systems of the people. So in qualitative research design, there are three methods that can be used. I've already told you it could be depth interviews, focus group, or the projective techniques. We'll be discussing these one by one in detail. So first of all, let's discuss depth interviews. So depth interviews are considered to be heart and soul of the motivational research. So these are designed to determine deep-seated or repressive motives. Whenever the purpose is to know the deep-seated motives of the people, the hidden underlying motives of the people for purchasing some particular product or for patronizing a particular retail outlet, we can make use of the depth interviews. So depth interviews are often lengthy, unstructured, and informal. So these depth interviews, most of the qualitative research is always in the unstructured form. So that means we don't have a ready questionnaire in hand of the questions which need to be asked from the respondents. So generally, this is a very flexible kind of system wherein questions are the next question will be decided on the basis of the response that we got from the respondents. So the length of depth interviews generally lasts between 30 minutes to an hour. So depth interviews are basically on one-to-one basis. So here interview will interview only one respondent at a time, and the interview time for interviewing one respondent would vary between 30 minutes to 1 hour. After establishing the general subject to be discussed, the researcher keeps his or her own participation to minimum. So the moderator, the researcher, or the interviewer, whatever we whatever name we give them, their task is only to start the discussion. Thereafter, their role will be very minimum because their purpose is to let the customer, let the respondent speak, and so that he feels free to present his ideas, because our purpose is to know the underlying or the hidden feelings of the respondents, not the interviewer. So this can be analyzed if we allow them to talk freely. The questions are general, so and the respondents are encouraged to talk freely about their activities, their interests, needs, desires, motives, emotions, and attitudes in addition to the product or brand under study. So the moderator, what will he do? What he or she can do is that they just start on the discussion, and thereafter they'll be silent afterwards. But whenever they feel that the discussion is going off the track, it's not on the topic that they have started, their responsibility is to bring the respondent back to the things he wants him to discuss. Sometimes indirect questions such as, why do you think your friends smoke gold flake cigarettes? Because this smoking is something which no one wants to admit. So to know the underlying feelings of the people regarding smoking or regarding alcohol consumption, we may ask them indirect questions. Next is the advantages or disadvantages of depth interviews. Advantage is that it attempts to bypass the inhibitions about revealing inner feelings. So when we means ask somebody direct questions, they may hesitate to respond. So that inhibition of the people can be removed by making use of the depth interviews. As the responses will be analyzed by the interviews, so it will be the interpretation of the responses will be based on the uh, view of the interviewer. So we there is a possibility of bias on the final responses. Second is that small size may not be representative of the entire population, because it is not possible to conduct depth interviews of thousands of people. So it will always be in hundred of numbers. So because the cost of conducting so much interview will be very high. So the small size of the depth interviews cannot be taken as the representative of the entire population. Next method of qualitative research design is called focus group interviews. So this is a popular technique for exploratory research. Exploratory research is a kind of research where we want to explore new things, where we want to explore new ideas, or we want to know about the hidden feelings of the people. So it focus group interviews brings together 8 to 10 people with similar backgrounds for group discussion. We can say like all the people belonging to the middle class means the people in the middle class generally have the similar kind of needs and viewpoints. So the people belonging to the middle class, 8 to 10 people belonging to them, can be taken for interviews. So now the difference between depth interviews and focus group interviews is that depth interview is conducted on one-to-one basis, and focus group interviews are always conducted in a group. That's why group term is also included in the name of the interviews. So the discussion is focused at a product or service or any other subject for which research is conducted. The moderator guides the discussion, encouraging the participants to freely discuss. Again, Similar to the depth interviews, here also the role of interviewer, the role of moderator will be to encourage the participants to discuss freely. So if he feels that only few participants are discussing and some are not participating, he may encourage them to speak also, but he will speak minimum. These sessions generally last for 2 hours and are videotaped. So the length of the depth interviews varies between 30 minutes to an hour, but the length of the focus group interview can last up to 2 hours. And generally, these interviews are videotaped so that means the interviewer can see the recorded discussion afterwards, and then he can analyze that. Sessions are held in conference room with one-way mirrors, permitting the marketers to observe the session without inhibiting their responses. So generally, these type of sessions are held in a conference room with one-way mirrors, wherein the interviewer can see the interviewees, but the interviewees they cannot see the interviewers. So what they'll feel that they are not being observed by someone, so they'll be more free while presenting their ideas. So they will not hesitate and it will not inhibit their responses because they'll feel that they are not being observed by someone. So it will bring about more positive results. The last method, the third type of techniques that can be used for conducting qualitative research is called projective techniques. These techniques are adopted to view the hidden responses of the customers, and these responses may relate to hidden thoughts, feelings, perceptions, attitudes, motivations, and affiliations. And there are a number of projective techniques that can be used. Some of the projective techniques that are highly used are, first one is word association test. So a series of word, phrases, and objects are spoken to the consumer respondents. The respondents are then asked to speak out the first word or thought that comes to their mind. So let's play this word association test. I'll speak a word and you have to give the response with whatever comes to your mind with that word. So let's start, students. Tide. Yes, students. Start responding. Tide. Next is sentence completion test. So similar to word association test, instead of a single word, incomplete sentence will be posed to the respondents, and they will be required to complete that sentence. So let's say I had gone to shopping, ठीक है? और आगे जो है वो सेंटेंस जो है वो इनकम्प्लीट है, that has to be completed by the respondents. This is called sentence completion. In thematic appreciation test, some untitled or unambiguous pictures are given to respondents that they ask to interpret the stories from the pictures. The pictures may relate to some situations or stories and happenings. The respondents' response is then analyzed to know about their thought process, perception, and imaginations. Let's say there is a picture of a family approaching a Reliance store. They are outside a Reliance store and they are required to build a story by seeing their picture. On the basis of the responses, we can know what they think about the Reliance stores. So this is the thematic appreciation test. Then it could be role playing. So role playing में क्या होता है कि we could ask the respondents to play the role of someone. Let's say we ask them to play the role of the Amul boy or Amul girl, Utterly Butterly जो girl है, उनका जो mascot है Amul का, we can ask them to play the role of that. So they'll act in a way they think about that particular object. So that is the technique of role playing. So all these are the methods of the qualitative research. Coming next is the quantitative research design. So quantitative research design includes the method for data collection, the data collection instruments, and the sample design. So the first thing is the data collection methods. The three methods that can be used for collecting the numerical data is the observation, by experimentation, or by conducting surveys. Let's discuss observation first. It is an important approach to gain in-depth understanding of consumers is to observe their behavior in the process of buying and using products. By watching consumers, researchers gain a better understanding of what product symbolizes to a consumer. And observational research provides valuable information which is used in product advertising. It is also widely used by experientialists to understand the buying and the consumption pattern of people. So this observation can be done with the human eye. So a person can sit outside a shopping mall and he can observe the behavior of people who are coming to that shopping mall for shopping. So it could be done with the mechanical devices. Means this observation can be made with the help of the cameras, or we can just record the physiological responses. So in the physiological responses, we could make use of galvanometer. So which basically records the response of skin to the particular thing. Next is the experiments. So experiments can be conducted in marketing too. So generally you have heard of conducting experiments in laboratories, but in case of marketing, experiments can be conducted in field also. It may be conducted by bringing about some change in one variable to check and evaluate the effect of manipulation on the another. For example, we just want to know which kind of packaging will be preferred by people. So we can conduct the survey by using different packaging in different areas. So the packaging that is highly preferred by more number of people, that can be finally used. So this is the kind of experiments we can conduct. So the researcher can test the relative sales appeals for package designs, prices, or the promotional offers. So in a particular area, they can give the promotional offer of 5%, 5 rupees discount. In the other, they can give the buyback offer. Okay? And the other, they can give more discount. They can check the responses of the people towards the different promotional offers, and the one that is highly preferred by the people can be finalized. The third method that can be used for conducting quantitative data is the survey method. So surveys means contacting the respondents and getting a questionnaire filled from them. So generally this is a structured questionnaire is used. That structured questionnaire means a pre-designed questionnaire will be handed over to the people and they'll be asked to fill their responses. The contact method that can be used for conducting surveys could include the personal interview survey. Here the people the researcher will visit individual persons one by one. He'll ask the respondents to fill the responses on the questionnaire. And the telephone survey, he may contact the respondents via telephone by making personal calls. In the mail surveys, the questionnaires will be mailed to the addresses of the respondents and they are required to send it back after filling the questionnaire. Then means with the help of technology, with the advancement in the internet and the technology, now surveys can be conducted online. So a Google form can be designed and the Google form can be sent into a number of people. The link of Google form can be sent, or we can email the questionnaire to the number of respondents which are required to fill it and send it back on the email address that from where it was sent. Such a survey is based on the assumption that the respondents are literate enough to understand the questions posed and will respond. So ये सर्वे जो है वो इस assumption पे based होता है कि respondents जो है वो पढ़े लिखे हैं, they are literate and they are able to understand whatever questions are being asked from them. Sometimes such questionnaires are accompanied by incentives in order to attract the respondents to answer these questions. So, because generally people don't prefer participating in surveys, so generally incentives are offered to them that if they'll participate in a particular survey, they'll get a talk time of 10 rupees, or they can redeem a coupon attached with it worth rupees 5 or worth rupees 10, or they can get a discount coupon. So in order to encourage them to participate in the service. Data collection instrument is a it's something that is being used to collect the data. So generally we can make use of the questionnaires. Okay? So questionnaire is something that consists of a set of questions presented to respondents for their responses. It could be a list of statements with which they can show their level of agreement or disagreement. Also means instead of including the questions, we can just write down some statements and people can tell whether they agree with that statement or they disagree with that statement. Then list of product attributes. So the features of the products can be listed. Attitude scales can be used. It could be a Likert scale or semantic differential scale or rank order scale. You will do these in much detail in the subject marketing research. So next thing is, once you have designed the instrument, you have decided upon the type of method you'll use for conducting the survey, you'll use for collecting the data. Then afterwards, you need to design the sample. A sample design basically addresses three questions. First is who is to be surveyed, which is called sampling unit. Like one of you said that you will contact young persons for the question I've asked. So youngsters are the sampling unit. How many to survey? Whether you should survey 10 people, 20 people, 100 or 1,000 people. So the number of people to be surveyed consists the sample size. And last is how should the respondents be chosen? How should they be conducted? Whether it should be a random sampling or non-random sampling, or you should go for probability or means some other method of sampling. So once means data collection method, sampling design, and the data collection instrument is decided upon, the next step would be to collect the primary data. So collecting primary data is something that is very expensive and it is also prone to the errors. So people may not fill the accurate responses. Some they may fill the half of the questionnaire and return the half of questionnaire unfulfilled. So these are some of the errors that can be there. A quantitative study generally employs a field staff recruited and trained directly by researchers that specialize in conducting field surveys. So the completed questionnaires are received and are reviewed on regular basis to ensure that recorded responses are clear and complete. So whatever responses are being received by the interviews, that are being reviewed again and again to screen out any errors out of that, so that the data we get is clear as well as the complete. Once data is collected, then the next step is to analyze the data, and it deals with extracting relevant findings from collecting data. So collecting data will be of no use if we don't analyze that data to find out something relevant out of that data. In qualitative research, the moderator usually analyzes the respondent's response. So, as I've already told you that in case of qualitative research, the interviewer, the moderator, he himself analyzes the data. But in quantitative research, the research supervisor analyzes the data. The responses are converted into numerical scores and are then tabulated and analyzed with the help of computers using sophisticated analytical techniques. So various analysis techniques are being used to analyze the data. And finally, a report is prepared. A data collected and analyzed will be of no use if we don't prepare a report summarizing the information we have extracted out of the research. The researcher prepares a report of her or his findings to be presented to relevant parties. It may or may not include recommendations for action depending on the requirements of management. It includes a description of methodology used as well as tables and graphics to support the research findings. And the researcher should prepare major findings that are relevant to decisions facing management. So, with this, we end the consumer research process.